Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've ever sought out relationship advice, I'm sure you've heard the golden rule. You just need to communicate better, right? It's everywhere. But after 17 years of clinical experience, I've got a bit of a reality check for you. Communication is actually not the foundation of a healthy relationship. If you're doing all the right talking and absolutely nothing is changing, well, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into the profound concept of emotional safety, and we'll see why it's the hidden biological prerequisite for everything you actually want in a partnership. See, there's a massive gap between what our brains know and what our bodies actually feel. We're going to completely dismantle that communication myth today. Have you ever sat across the table from your partner and thought, yeah, I know you love me, but in that exact same moment, you felt completely terrified to bring up a real issue? That right there is the difference between intellectual knowledge and felt safety. The logic is there, sure, but the felt safety, the biological reality is totally missing. And it's that felt safety that ultimately dictates whether you can truly show up for each other. All right, let's jump right into section one, the communication myth. Here is the harsh truth. I feel statements aren't going to save you. You could learn the absolute perfect communication script. A therapist could hand you 100 different conflict resolution tools. But if the environment itself feels emotionally unsafe to one or both of you, those tools are completely useless. You might recite the script perfectly in a counseling office only to go home and have the exact same fight you've been having for years. The tools aren't broken, guys. The environment is. Safety absolutely has to come first. So, what do we actually mean by this? Emotional safety isn't some vague, fluffy idea. It is a very real, physiological, felt sense in your nervous system. It means, like in your body, not just your head, that your partner is going to respond to your vulnerability with care and not contempt. It's an unconscious registration that happens way faster than conscious thought. You literally cannot think your way into feeling safe. Which brings us to section two, the biology of safety. When you feel safe, you have full access to your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for empathy, creativity, and problem solving. Your breathing is regulated, your muscles are relaxed. But when you don't feel safe, your sympathetic nervous system completely takes over. You drop right into fight, flight, or freeze. The blood literally leaves your prefrontal cortex and floods your limbs. You lose access to rational thought and you just become reactive. And here's what you really need to take away from this. This isn't a personal weakness. This is pure biology. It happens to literally every human being on the planet. And this biological wiring, it goes all the way back to infancy. When you were a baby, you relied entirely on your caregiver to regulate your emotions. That attachment system hardwired your brain for connection. But here's the fascinating part. That system doesn't just retire when you turn 18. It transfers directly to your romantic partner. So when you're arguing over who forgot to load the dishwasher again, or why they took 3 hours to text back, you aren't really fighting about logistics. At the deepest level, your limbic system is desperately asking, are you there for me? Can I count on you? Am I safe with you? Because of this deep biological wiring, emotional safety is the absolute number one predictor of whether a couple will thrive or deteriorate. And this isn't just an opinion. Renowned researchers like John Gottman and Sue Johnson have proven this time and time again. It's not about compatibility. It's not about shared interests or matching love languages. Couples who stay together aren't couples who never fight. They're the couples who have built a deep enough reservoir of emotional safety that their arguments don't threaten the bond itself. Let's move on to section three. What destroys emotional safety? The first and absolutely most destructive behavior is contempt. Based on John Gottman's research, contempt is the number one predictor of divorce. Contempt isn't just a disagreement, it is disgust. It's the eye rolling, the sarcasm, the mockery, and the name calling. When you treat your partner with contempt, you are fundamentally communicating, you are beneath me. And let me tell you, nothing destroys the physiological sense of safety faster than that. Another major safety destroyer is stonewalling and withdrawal. When one partner simply goes quiet, leaves the room, or just refuses to engage, the other partner's nervous system, especially if they lean towards anxiety, interprets that silence as a devastating abandonment. Now, the withdrawing partner might just be overwhelmed and trying to calm down. Sure. But the biological impact on the other person is a blaring alarm that says, I am choosing disconnection over you. Then we have criticism as a default mode. There is a huge difference between a complaint about a specific behavior and a criticism that attacks a person's core character, like saying, you're so selfish. If criticism becomes your standard way of communicating, the receiving partner quickly learns that bringing up any problem means they're going to get attacked. So, what do? They stop bringing things up entirely. The relationship goes completely underground, and all that resentment just builds in silence. Now, this next one is incredibly damaging, the betrayal of vulnerability. Imagine sharing a deep fear or insecurity with your partner, and then a week later during a fight, they use that exact information as a weapon against you, or maybe they share it with friends or just dismiss it. The immediate lasting message to your nervous system is, it is not safe to be vulnerable with me. And once that lesson is learned, unlearning it takes enormous effort. Finally, unpredictability. To feel safe, our bodies require predictability. If a partner is super warm and loving one day, but cold and emotionally absent the next, the other person's nervous system can never fully relax. You end up living in a constant state of chronic vigilance. It exhausts your body because you never actually know which version of your partner you're going to get. All right. Let's talk about how to fix this in section 4, connection before problem solving. Attempting to negotiate logistics while the attachment bond feels threatened is exactly like throwing gasoline on a fire. When both of your nervous systems are hijacked and sensing danger, you physically do not have access to the parts of your brain that do rational problem solving. Your nervous system doesn't care who is right. It only cares if it's safe. Because of that, healthy conflict resolution has to follow a very specific sequence. Step 1, regulate the emotional bond. Step 2, share vulnerable feelings safely. And by that, I mean actual fear, sadness, or longing, not defensive anger. Once those 2 steps are achieved, then you reach step 3, where you can finally access the problem-solving brain. The remarkable truth here is that once the bond is secure again, the original problem usually solves itself in about 5 minutes. The problem was never the problem. The disconnection was the problem. Which leads us to our final part, section 5, rebuilding safety and trust. Here are the pillars for actively rebuilding that foundation. First, consistent responsiveness, just acknowledging your partner's bids for connection, even simply saying, I hear you, can we talk in an hour, is a massive deposit into the safety account. Second, radical accountability, owning your mistakes without getting defensive, without throwing a bot on there, signals to your partner that you genuinely care about their experience. Third is nervous system co-regulation, because safety is physical. A calm, grounded partner can actually help a dysregulated partner calm down through eye contact and physical presence. And fourth, relentless repair. Safe relationships aren't conflict free. They're relationships where ruptures get revisited with honesty and actually repaired rather than swept under the rug. Now, you might be wondering, what if we just can't do this on our own? Well, that is exactly where a therapist comes in. A therapist acts as a temporary external regulator. They take a drone's eye view, seeing the toxic cycle from above and constantly interrupting it. They block the exits of anger or sarcasm to safely midwife a physiological state change right there in the room, which allows the couple to finally experience deep vulnerability safely. But before we wrap up, we really need to clarify a crucial distinction. Emotional safety is not the same thing as comfort. Real emotional safety does not mean walking on eggshells just to keep the peace. And it certainly isn't the absence of conflict. True safety is a resilient container for absolute honesty. If you can't say hard things to your partner, that silence actually indicates that safety has already been lost. Which brings us to our final profound thought for this explainer. Safety means that you can be challenged without being destroyed. It is the resilient soil where trust and deep intimacy can actually grow. So I'll leave you with this. Are you settling for a quiet, comfortable relationship? Or are you ready to do the courageous work of building a truly safe one? Because rebuilding that foundation changes absolutely everything. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time. If you want to work on this for real, try Figlet, my AI relationship coaching app. You can start for free, no credit card needed, at figlet.empathy.com.